Now that you've heard, thank you so much for your presentation. So now that we've heard everyone talk, we're gonna have a Q&A session really quick. You can just drop your questions in the chat, or you can unmute and ask them, and then Kristen will read off questions in the chat. Each speaker can take turns answering the question, and then we will move on to the next question. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can just drop them in the chat now.
Feel free. We have 3 speakers who just spoke, so we have so many questions for them. Please feel free, drop in or just unmute yourself and ask the question. Feel free, any question, please.
I have a couple of questions. May I?
Sure, yes, sure.
Okay, very good, thank you. In fact, I have a question for each of the presenters. First off, let me say thank you very much, ladies, for wonderful presentations. And thank you, Mrs. Malama, for pulling this endeavor, you and Ms. Yang pulling this endeavor together. I'm absolutely fascinated, and I think you all need to keep this going. My first question, I want to go back to Ms. Kinlan, Alicia. I wanted to ask her about her VEX competitions. Where did you and your team land, and what was the most exciting one of those occasions? My second question is to Ms. Wang. I wanted to ask her, she spoke about RF welding and about metal dies and what have you. What particular aspect of your experience with this welding piece did you really enjoy the most? And the final question that I have to Ms. Jones is, she mentioned CAD, computer aided drafting. If she's ever heard of Helix, that's just one I wanted to know. And does CNC still stand for computer numeric control? Is that the machine that is still used in that industry? I don't know. I only used to supervise faculty who used CAD/CAM and Helix software. But the machines were expensive and they were huge, and I was just curious, is that a computer numeric control machine that you were referencing? Those are my 3 questions. We can start with Ms. Kinlan.
And Dr. Robertson, I just wanted you to introduce yourself, what you have done just a little bit, so maybe the audience can have just a feel of who you are. Thank you.
Okay, shall I do that before they answer? Yeah, I'll do it now. Okay. Well, again, nice to meet you, ladies. Work well done. I retired about 10 years ago as Dean of Academic Affairs at one of the local community colleges. I taught in the classroom for 10 years, and I was Dean of Academic Affairs for 21 years. And during that period, I supervised computer integrated manufacturing. I supervised computer aided design. I did that, but along with other academic areas as well. So I was really not a practitioner in the field of engineering, but I learned so much from the guys at that time who I was supervising. So it's wonderful to see young women moving into this field. And when Alicia talked about the people she admired, Mary Jackson and what have you, and the first person came to my mind as an African-American woman was Bessie Coleman, you know, the pilot, you know? And so that's just a little bit about me. I also chair a committee called the Los Angeles Lusaka Sister City Committee. I've worked with 5 mayors of the city of Los Angeles, and we do some special projects in Lusaka, Zambia. And Mrs. Malama has been very instrumental in helping to facilitate our efforts there, some of which have to do with what you're talking about. We are working on a water project, and I'm thinking that some of you ladies may eventually go into irrigation technology, environmental sciences and what have you. And I'm just impressed by what you're doing so far, being such young women in the field. And it's always important to bring someone behind you. I'm so glad that Mrs. Malama has put this platform together for you, because I've got granddaughters of my own, And I've been told, Mrs. Malama, to ask if you all record this because I'd like for my granddaughters to see what these young ladies are doing. So that's enough about me. Okay, I'd like to hear from these young ladies in answering those questions. And I've learned a lot today. So
Thank you,
school
Dr.
me some
Robertson.
more. Yes, you're welcome.
So yeah, I guess you asked me what was like the exciting most exciting
Competition.
part and of my VEX competition, and then how far did we go?
Right.
Well, in my 7th grade and 8th grade years, we made it to states, which is where you compete against the entire state. We actually did fairly well there, and in this last year with high school, we only didn't make worlds because of a few technicality or communication problems.
Oh, wow.
So we may have gotten to compete in the world competition, which is crazy because we're in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. I have to say one of the most exciting, or like, I'm gonna call it exciting parts, was probably what I found also the most moving, which is where the brain to our robot, like the central computer part that ran all the systems on our robot, we actually fried it. And just to watch us all pull together and to be able to actually get another spare brain from another team so that we could continue competing, and all of that hard work and coming together, that was probably one of the most exciting parts. Besides this one time where with help from another team, I was asked to write a program in 10 seconds.
In 10 seconds.
Or more like 30 seconds, but they had to help me write it in 30 seconds or less, and then I had to run it to what's called the queue, where the robot was already about to go on the field. So I had to run to the table, plug a cord in, and right before we were about to go to a match. You can actually watch VEX matches online if you Google it.
That's good.
You might even find my team. I was on 83A for Chaminade in my middle school, and then 599B for my high school this last year. Also, I wanted to just Callie Gong in the chat, she wrote, what would you say was one of the hardest times in your STEM journey? I think as of currently, the hardest thing was trying to get through physics class as a freshman in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. That was hard. I still have no idea how I did on the ending test, but yeah, that was probably the hardest part.